It's a riff and a song pretty much guaranteed to make anyone of my generation get a little bit misty-eyed with nostalgia, and it goes like this. It's a good one, isn't it? And there are a few elements to this that I think make it a really successful piece of songwriting that I think are worth discussing. Now, there are many compliments I think it would be worth paying to the album Moseley Shoals by Ocean Colour Scene. One compliment that I don't think anyone would be tempted to pay it, though, is that it's a particularly original album, because it's not. Pretty much every moment on there, you can trace a direct line back to an earlier song by the Beatles, the Faces, the Stones, Cream. But hey, so what? Talent borrows and genius steals, right? I only mention it to underline the point that in the case of the Riverboat song, we are dealing with some very basic musical elements in the best possible way. That riff comes straight in. Which was described by Steve Craddock, the guitarist who wrote it, as something that a child could have come up with. And you get where he's coming from? It's 3 notes, B, D and E. Placing us in the key of B minor, and the notes of the riff are derived from every guitarist's favourite tool, the minor pentatonic. In the key of B, that would give us these notes. B, D, E, F sharp, and A. And we're only concerning ourselves with the first 3 of those. It gives it this immediate sense of familiarity. Simon Fowler, the singer, when he heard it, described it as something you just felt like you always instinctively knew. It even reminded him of a playground taunt. It's so kind of repetitive and basic. It then moves through a series of chords going from the B minor to E minor. Back to B minor. Then F sharp minor. Before returning to B minor. So it moves through, of all things, a 12-bar blues, essentially. A musical device so familiar, most of us are well acquainted with it before we even know what it's called. It's built off of the root chord, the B minor, the chord built off the 4th degree of the scale, which was the E, and the 5th degree of the scale, which was F sharp. In the verse, the riff in F sharp is spruced up a little bit to go like this. Where we go from an F sharp power chord to a G to an A before bringing us back to B minor, like so. It's a little bit of a variation, but we're still essentially dealing with a kind of a blues turnaround there. The chorus changes things up a little bit. We are moving through the chords B minor, D, E, and A. Which, again, according to Steve Craddock, is basically moving through the chords of House of the Rising Sun. It's, strictly speaking, not exactly the same, but again, you can hear what he means. So, the point is, we're dealing with musical elements here that add up to a song that feel not so much like it's been written, so much as it's been discovered. all of the elements feel just so instinctively familiar to us. So what is it that makes it so successful? Well, contrary to what a lot of guitarists think, it's not just about how cool the riff is, or how interesting the chord progression is, or how basic or how complicated it is, or anything like that. It's much more about the whole package. And I think this song delivers the whole package really rather splendidly. And to get a bit of a handle on why, we're going to need to look at the rhythm. So unlike most other air guitar dad rock classics, the Riverboat song is not in 4/4 time. It's in 6/8. Or, I suppose if you wanted to count the underlying pulse as crotchets rather than quavers, you might consider it to be in 6/4, but that doesn't really matter. The crucial number is 6, the multiple of 3. Rather like the aforementioned House of the Rising Sun, also in 6/8. It's a time signature that automatically sets it aside from most other songs you might hear, so it makes it kind of immediately memorable. But I think there's more to it than that. I think it might even hold the key to the answer why they ended up calling it the Riverboat song, and to a lot of the lyrical imagery as well. 6/8 is a time signature much more often associated with folk music than rock music. A lot of old Celtic and Anglo-Saxon ballads and storytelling songs were written in 6/8, as were, crucially, sea shanties. By way of an example, have a listen to this. That was a traditional Irish jig called the Three Captains, and you can hear the same 6/8 time signature being used there. 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, and so on. But my main contention here really is this. Isn't the Three Captains a brilliant name for that piece of music? Even without any lyrics, that just feels right, doesn't it? There is something inherently nautical about a 6/8 rhythm. There's something about the bob and the sway of it that feels like the sea. And you can hear this reflected in sea-themed songs of all sorts. If you consider some well-known maritime work songs, insofar as there are well-known ones, things like Blow the Man Down and Hoist the Colours, you'll hear 6/8 very well represented in the genre. Even if we consider a more modern take on a sea shanty, something like Wellerman, which has a melody that goes like this. Now the underlying pulse there is a more traditional 4/4, but if we listen to the shape of the melody, you'll notice that the number 3 still figures pretty prominently. We've got this kind of very consistent grouping of notes in 3s. So it's a very common ingredient to convey something a little bit seaside-ish. So we might be beginning to understand why that piece of music might make a lyricist think about boats. Simon Fowler said that the lyric he wrote to the Riverboat song was inspired by the scene in Apocalypse Now when the boat comes under fire. And it's certainly not my place to second guess anyone's creative thinking, but it is interesting to consider why that might be. As we've already established, the riff has a very repetitive, menacing, almost taunting sort of a feel to it. So we can understand it might prompt a kind of a violent image to come into your mind. But also, that 6/8 rhythm does just inherently suggest something to do with boats. So when we hear lines like, "Where the riverboat sways beneath the sun is where the river runs red," we don't need to know what that means. If it means much of anything. It just strikes our subconscious as being absolutely correct with that bit of music. And that's what I mean by the whole package. The music and the lyric really working in tandem to create a very complete vibe. So what's the moral of the story? Well, I'm not here to tell you how to live your life or anything, but if you're into songwriting, maybe consider the following. Firstly, never underestimate the power of the simple and the obvious. And secondly, if something creates a strong association for you in your mind, really grab it and run with it. It's a great way of channeling that kind of creative instinct. But anyway, thanks ever so much for watching. If you've enjoyed, please consider liking and subscribing. Really does help me out a lot. Thank you ever so much. And I'll see you again with something else soon. Cheers.